live streaming is on.
Fill in names here and get it. Today, I think the first thing, it's just the first thing I wrote down here. Let me share the screen, the meeting notes. So Super Sandro 2000 on GitHub opened an issue about the sticking to default.nix instead of package fun.nix. And he brings up some arguments, and we could briefly discuss those and see if we agree with those or if we want to change this again. I wrote them down a bit, I think a bit shortened here. The first one, I don't really agree with. He says a fun prefix, I think he meant suffix here maybe, is used for complex things like package sets. I don't think this, fun stands for function, and so it's just a part of the name that's reused. I don't think that's in any way a conflict with this.
How much do we emphasize in the RFC the it's awkward to have default.nixes that don't have default parameters, and therefore you can't do the CLI on them?
We do have quite some arguments here, which I think are pretty good still.
Well, I feel like that's...
Yeah.
But I feel like that's the main argument. Everything else is sort of an elaboration of that. And if he had just seen that, I feel like it was lost in translation, basically.
So a bit, well, I did link him to the section actually. So a bit more context. I actually opened a PR for Nixpkgs where I draft PR with the changes so I could run CI and see what kind of errors we get. Actually, I broke CI for the entirety of Nixpkgs for like an hour. But
well done.
Congratulations.
Well done.
Yes, it's we hit GitHub API rate limits for like the number of labels that are created and editor config checks or something like that. So that's great. But yeah, I did link him to that here. Oh, not sure why he marked it as resolved. But yeah, I'll link to this section, linked him to this section, and then he responded with this issue. And so yeah, we should assume that he has at least read that section. But yeah, so this particular argument, I don't think it's very strong. I don't even think it's really an argument against this. Sound good?
Well, I don't want to dismiss it in that it is a convention that calling something a function in that way is something more. It's not a drop down argument, but it's a point to be acknowledged and moved on from.
Yeah.
The important thing isn't the dash fun. The important thing is that if you run nix build and see it in the directory, it doesn't do a thing that is confusing. If we just called it package.nix, I don't really care.
most default.nixes don't support that because most of them don't have everything defaulted. It's the case of what you see in a few bullets down is that if you call package a directory, does it work? I think that's the
we
example.
Do have that is one. Or Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just say I think that in Nixpkgs, that's definitely true that call package is meant to kind of be the default. I do think that outside of Nixpkgs, which I don't know how relevant those conversations are, but in general, it does make a whole lot of sense to have a file that's your actual derivation that you might do call package on, but then your default.nix is kind of your CLI front end. so that if I want to call Nix build, like that has my default args, like really for when I'm like trying to use the thing in isolation. But yeah, I mean, I think
yeah.
Yeah.
So about this argument here, I think this is kind of an anti-pattern where we tell people that they can do this to, it's a workaround that came out of the fact that we don't have anything like this RFC, because people wanted to add their package functions to Nixpkgs and have them be in the scope so they could call it, but that doesn't work by default. With this RFC, we would have a place where we can put things, and then people could just do nixbuild-a. They wouldn't have to resort to this workaround. A lot of guides online and a lot of people on our IRC Matrix now tell people to use this to call their packages, but it's just a hack in my opinion, and it's probably good to get rid of that habit.
Yep. Okay.
By the way,
so we should probably
John?
acknowledge this in the RFC, right?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Then one of the arguments is that it makes the transition needlessly harder, because I think people just need to learn. People need to learn this, whereas default it was always default.nix, and now they need to know it's packagefun.nix. That is a point. I personally think that people will have to learn something new anyways, and the thing they need to learn is fairly simple, and we can tell them, like, it's 2 sentences in the RFC here. Like up here, this is really the main 2 sentences, and people need to learn that. Once they have that, that's it, and they can learn both in one. But yeah, it is true. It is something extra that people need to learn, and people might run into. But we also have a lot of like examples. People can see the other directories where packages are in. People can get an error message when they try to build the package, which we can even improve the error message. Like, we are flexible with the call package. We can make a call package for the auto-called one, give a good error message when there is a default.nix but no packagefun.nix. So I think that would be fine to me.
Perhaps
I also
clarify in the RFC that changing the file name convention is a goal, secondary goal, but still a goal. It's not just something arbitrary that we decided. We have a motivation for this, and we want to include it in the RFC because it's good to bundle these changes, so we don't have to do everything over again when we eventually. Well, I think you get what I mean.
Yeah. Let me write this down here as well. Good to bundle changes, and I said people have to learn something new anyways, which is kind of the same thing as bundling changes. And also we can have a good error message. Telling people, good error message.
I think it's bundling of superficial changes, because we cannot bundle things that are actually hard.
Yeah. Not trying to deal with flakes.
Bundling superficial changes.
Yeah.
Well, a superficial change.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that is a superficial change, because it does change. I think it is a good change that has some merit in itself. But I think that's fine. We're not about package fun here, just to write down.
Also, on a procedural note, I feel like stuff like this shouldn't block us opening the RFC, which is the next big step. Like it's better to take broader community feedback, which includes Super Sandro because he's not on this team. Once we have an RFC up, if we like try to pre-do the RFC process, we may never formally open an RFC.
Yeah,
as things trickle in.
I think it's a trade-off of right. We should try to address the major points before we open it, so that we don't get a ton of backlash from it. But also at some point we do need to open it. And yeah.
This is classic bike shedding.
He does mention that guides will be wrong on the internet. I think this is, he doesn't say which two ways, but I think one of them is just this one. Right, and then one of his points is also that we shouldn't, so he mentions here the thing about also moving modules and things into these unit directories, like modules, changelog, package config generator, and so on. And he says we shouldn't also do that in this RFC, but have a separate RFC for that. But that it's really literally just the package fun.next, which is a good change on its own. And I don't think we...
What section does this quote come from? Is it the future work section or something else?
Let's see.
I think for future work this is fine. But
this is in the section for alternate package fund name.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, this...
it's not in motivation. It's not in like formal proposed change, whatever that's called. So I think it's fine.
I think we can be more off topic in the alternatives section because we have to explain our reasoning why.
Right.
And this is part of our reasoning. So I don't see.
I just
remove it. This would be better.
Yeah.
Like in my opinion, we could also. I mean, this goes a bit off topic. This is an argument for doing it the way in the RFC and not something else. But this is something for the future, which doesn't immediately have a benefit. And we do also say that we want to be able to change these directories and so on. So in my opinion, if this would like confuse people that we might want to do like much more with this RFC than is actually written down here, then we could also just remove this argument. It doesn't really, it's not a strong argument for this change.
Well, I guess we can move it to future work and then maybe reference the future work here. They'll make very clear that it's not part of the current proposal.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds good.
Just the motivation.
Yep. Okay, so I think so. Actually, did get two votes here. I would like to hear more people to see if people are really opposed to this, which I guess people are just opposed to it because it is something new and different that people aren't used to. But I do think we make a strong and good argument for it. So I hope we can convince people. Yeah, and otherwise, if people bring up very strong arguments, then we might have to change this. But yeah, I can write a reply with the points here that we made here, and also link to the meeting notes afterwards. Is this good? Should we move on?
Yeah, I think I saw some other points. You mentioned something about pass-through.
Yeah.
For modules.
I think this is all about arguing against doing this other things in the unit directories.
Right. Yeah, I could write an explanation why doing this in pass-through doesn't really work. Or we could just say this is out of scope.
I mean, even if it's in pass-through, you can still define the module in the separate.
That's way worse.
It's a bit messy because you have to evaluate the package before you get the module, and means you're just all the time.
Oh yeah,
all the time.
But yeah, that's out of scope. All right. So yeah, I think let's move on. We have something else to discuss, which is this here. So we discussed this last time, maybe already. It was the whole thing about having an args.next file, and then we discussed should we have a what was it, package value.next file, which is a very generic form, and then a default.next file. But then we said let's limit it to just the package found.next for now, and instead do a. So let me go in here.
Yeah, I think changing what the call package design pattern is to break it apart into those two concepts is probably a different effort.
Yeah. We did agree on that. The main thing here I'm not sure about is, so we said we'd allow all packages.next to refer these unit directories, but then the question is, how should they be allowed to be referred? So either we could just say, okay, you have to have this pattern of call package, the unit directory, and then the arguments, which is then restricted. And the only point of doing this is to change the args, because by default they're empty. But then I argue, why don't we just use .override then? Because .override is exactly there for that, to override the arguments. And with super, we also won't have the recursion problem. Actually, do we? Oh no, we would have.
It's not just a recursion problem; it's a general strictness problem. And I think I've responded to this in the comment below.
Yes.
So I think one of the issues is that if you have an assertion in your PKG fun.next, and the assertion doesn't work for the default invocation, you won't have the opportunity to override it.
That is
the override attribute requires that the original package evaluates.
I'm not sure if, like, how many packages are affected by this. So we have I guess this.
I don't think we have to count them. I'm pretty sure that's non-zero.
It's non-zero, but the only reason we are doing this is so that, well, I mean, what is the cost of this? The cost of this is adding some CI check that makes sure we only have packages of this form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine. But I don't think we should recommend .override, because it's not general enough. People will run into problems when we advise them to do it that way.
I guess, yeah, people could run into that. Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm just a bit like hesitant because I'm not sure if it. I mean, I can just spend some time on this and to figure out whether it works to just have this be a thing in the CI checks. I imagine it might be harder than it looks because you have all this recursion going on and so on. So that you suggested to override the call package to just like return the package function or something like this.
Yeah, so to implement the check, you only evaluate all packages.next for the attributes that you can check, which is the ones that have a unit file. So that's point 3, right? You intersect all packages.next and the list of unit files. And for those, you can invoke all packages.next in such a way that call package is defined to be something else. And by defining it as something else, you can make sure that the thing you're returning is the thing you're expecting.
All right. Do you want to try implementing that?
Sure.
And I apologize if I've lost track. What is the restriction, or what's the problem with the call package in terms of recursion?
It's where I think it is. Is it down here? Yeah, something like this, where actually let's go into like some old meeting notes. Might have been here. No, one before that. No, one before.
I think it's last week's one. Yeah, we had a discussion
Actually,
after the meeting.
Oh yeah, here. Yeah, something like this. It's a bit messy here, but essentially if you have a definition like this
If you have a definition
for the
where the
format.
name of it is the same as the original name.
Yeah,
Where's this
it's
issue?
kind of this is PR, the only PR that's open.
Yeah. So
I see.
if the issue is that you can't use this to do something like what an overlay would do, well, I mean that makes sense, right?
Well, it's more of a if sometimes, all right, people want to override the default graph this version to be the graph with no X version in an overlay.
Yeah,
when
this
they do that,
it's the other way around though, so it's not the right example.
Is it so like this would be on the user side? Yeah. They would do this in an overlay. This would be, if this would be the definition in Nixpkgs, you'd get an infinite recursion because now you have graph with no X and no X to graph with, which is infinite recursion. There's a way you could use super here, but then you have some other problems with like I think it was performance or something, and anyway, so in the end, this just doesn't work. Like the override doesn't work. And same for some other examples by Robert, like when you need to have assertions in the graph with expression, and you need to evaluate it first before you can override it. It also wouldn't work, and so then you need the full call package call here instead.
Yes, that was my try. That was what I was trying to figure out is. The dot override seems to hide things and doesn't seem to be that much. I don't see how dot override is superior to exposing call package itself in terms of being able to describe it or document it or avoid some of these problems.
It's mainly just simpler because when we want to have this restriction that, okay, you can call package into the unit directory, but only exactly for that attribute that the unit directory corresponds to, that just needs to be implemented and is an additional restriction that people in all packages might run into.
Okay.
And that's just the cost of it. And I guess it's fine if we have it implemented. Cost. All right.
Like I guess I'm trying to agree with Robert here.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's fine if we have that implemented, and I guess people might run into this where they are confused about like what exactly is allowed in all packages and when will CI fail. But honestly, it's probably fine.
Well, just to be clear, the thing that I think we all agreed is very difficult is when you have variance inside the unit itself. As opposed to calling the unit in different ways is, I mean, whether or not that's good, it's at least two different things. Like the former would be like I have some sort of common.nix and a bunch of separate entry points, and that gets super hairy. But if you can get away with one package fun and make it all in arguments to package fun, then it's definitely less hairy. There are the other issues about the names being one-to-one, but I mean, is that a fair starting point that at least these are sort of two separate levels of variates that like we can sort of think about separately, maybe teach separately too?
Yeah, it's by lifting the restriction that I'm suggesting in the PR, we don't have a complete solution to variance yet. So we still need to communicate that it only solves the problem of having non-default arguments to call package, which I think is a more pressing issue than variance.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not super keen on this args.nix, but I'm okay with having a call package. All packages.nix do a call package to a unit with different arguments.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
I thought that's
exactly
what we discussed last week, right?
That's exactly the direction that we were going.
Yeah.
We
Good.
took a bit of a detour to get there, but I think we agreed that we're not going to do args.nix, but instead just.
Oh, you could get that's just the thing didn't get updated yet.
Okay, it seems like we have general agreement.
Yeah, I think this is good. Yeah, so if we can implement this, that's fine. So the restriction of call package only. I did also think of another restriction we could do, which is a bit more general, which is that you can reference a unit directory, but you can also use alternate call packages. So like Python packages, you could use libs for Qt. You could also just import something. And with a smart enough AST parser and checker and so on, we could make the restriction that you can only reference the unit directory from there. But benefit would be we could essentially move almost all the definitions from all packages to the unit directories, but at the cost of being much less strict about it, because call packages, that's multiple packages. It's not just a single one anymore. So package fun doesn't make a lot of sense there. People won't be able to expect the top level arguments in their package functions anymore, because you have Python packages, .call package, which adds Python packages. Same for the others. Import has to be called with an arbitrary set of arguments, and so on. So I don't like this idea of allowing these kinds of things. That would just be kind of a workaround for being able to move more definitions without actually solving the problem.
Yeah, I agree that we don't want to do this yet.
Okay, so only top level call package is allowed.
Yeah.
Is it written down what the new rules Robert is implementing are?
It's in the main change here is just this here. So it's about the restriction of referencing files between Nix packages. And so there's one exception here that all packages can reference the files inside the unit directories once for the corresponding definition.
Yeah, so we'll have two checks. One check is reading all the Nix files, determining the path expressions that are in there, checking those. That check has an exception for all packages. And then I'm going to write the check for all packages on Nix. And that'll cover all of Nix packages together.
I'm just okay. That's really relevant.
I think this I think we know what to do. Just
well, I mean, I'm asking also for note taking.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky too, because there's I made a suggestion here. I still think something like this would be. I still think this would be a bit clearer to write. And you also said we have like a duplicate checking here and so on. But yeah, we'll figure it out. There's also a lot of text down here, which I haven't fully read up. No,
yeah, it's the alternatives section.
Yeah. But yeah, I think after this, let's probably discuss. this here and simplify the rules a bit, and then merge it afterwards. I think it looks pretty much good. Yeah, so that sounds good. Should we move on, or does anyone have any concerns about this?
Should the all package with the exception, should it only be able to do the package fun, or should be able to do other stuff?
Oh yeah, I think
only package.
Right.
All right, then yeah, let's just write that down if we all agree.
I'm not sure if we can feasibly check that it doesn't do anything else, but at least for the call package invocation, we can check it. It's just that if it's like a call package and then one of the arguments references a unit file, that's going to be harder to check. At least it's going to be hard to check using the Nix evaluator. I guess if Sylvan wants to write a check that really goes into the AST, then that would be feasible to like really check that it only references the PKG file.
Can we just say that you could only use the path literal that looks like it's the unit dir as an argument to call package?
Right. Yeah. It's.
I guess that is to be expected, pretty much. I don't think people would use anything else there. Well, you could.
I mean, whether we enforce in CI, I think it's good to write down, like, because it's basically saying what's the public interface of the unit.
Yeah. So I think it's written down in these rules, right? 1 to 5. I think
it's not as clear, I think, in these rules.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't mention that it has to be in like call package form.
Yeah, and actually, my suggestion here also to mention this right all.
Yeah. Yeah. So that should be.
We can do that async as long as we all agree.
Something like this, and actually also, so this also relates to the complaint by Sandra before. We can also change call package to check if there's a package fun.nix and then call that if it exists. This would also not require changing the guides online, which I don't think is a requirement, but it would make it just work. Yeah. So we are flexible in that as well.
There's precedent for such behavior with Nix shell. It also, if you pass the directory, it doesn't look at default.nix, it first looks at shell.
I think that would be a good change.
I think it's at some point we'll probably get rid of call package anyway and replace it with something better.
It is a bit less efficient.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, but yeah, that's all right, I think. So something else. I don't think I talked about this even last time. I created this. I think I mentioned this. I created this repository where I'm now writing the tooling in Rust, and it's like pretty much working now. I implemented, so it's part of the code is relatively clean. Part of the code is pretty messy. But it does actually work now. It does the transition, and it does it with pretty much no extra manual steps needed. Like it actually almost fully evaluates without any manual changes. And yeah, that's why I opened the peer to Nixpkgs. Let me open it here. So opened it. Files changed. I think it's like 12,000. It's mainly just files moved. It's 4 commits. Let's see. We have actually this isn't needed anymore. I tried to fix something for CI. I implement the unit directory reading here. That's a super simple change. Notably, I had to put the let in statement for the unit dirs up here, like at the top of stage.nix before anything else, so that it would be fast enough, because otherwise it would have read the unit directories multiple times and
Yeah.
or something like that. With this, it's actually like the same speed. Like it's not any slower, which is nice. Right, then we have unit packages here. This is super simple. Then this commit is all automatic. I also wrote down the loading. I wrote down the commit that I'm using for the tool here. Oh.
Ooh. Maybe stop and reload the page.
Well, and so this is, it does two things. It moves the files and it removes the definitions from all packages.nix. Yep, so we have all packages.nix, a lot of removals, and otherwise just a whole bunch of file renames. And yeah, and then I first tried to just evaluate it locally with like nix env-qa something. And yeah, and then I found like a couple failures still, but then I had to fix some extra ones in from CI. And that's one of them is like how all packages.nix apparently has a res in it, which some packages use to avoid infinite recursion.
It's terrible. Get rid of it immediately.
Yep.
Apparently, this has been tried before. I looked at the history of it. Some people tried to get rid of it, but then others complained that it was causing infinite recursion. For exactly,
it'd probably be call package, right?
Yeah, that could be an option. But I just did it the way where it doesn't change the semantics in any way. So because res is the result from the current overlay, super is the one from the previous one, and for the all unit directories, that would be the previous one. And so that makes it work. And then there's also some...
Could you just PR that separately?
No, because super doesn't contain these attributes in current master.
Oh, how come?
The overlay, the split for the unit overlay and the top, the all packages of Nix causes these to move from rest to super. Yes.
Oh, well, excellent. This should be motivation RFC. Get rid of this stupid ass thing.
Yeah, fortunately, it's very few instances that have to be fixed here. And then there's a few files that because of like edge cases couldn't be moved automatically in the tool. And this is like, these are all the files here. Like you can see them all on the left. So it's like 4 instances, which is totally doable. And this also makes it super easy to rebase the PR because I just need to run the tool again. And this one is reusable, this commit, without any changes really. Yeah, so, and that's it. And CI, after these fixes, it actually succeeded. Well, there's a merge conflicts, of course. But the only thing that I could recall this again and it would succeed. But otherwise, all the CI checks succeeded. I think also the diff, these are all the packages that changed output paths. We should check those individually, but this is again doable manually.
Yep, there's
these are different packages.
There's a couple known ones like the NixOS ones. And the other ones you can Nix diff them.
Yeah. So this is pretty good news. Oh, and also, yeah. If this goes through, we succeeded. I think it's like 12,000 files that are being changed here.
Yeah, it's really amazing that, after all this discussion and you writing the tool to see this up. Congratulations.
Thanks. And also, I changed the sharding a little bit because I realized, I'm not sure how we made that mistake, but so I changed it to 2 prefix sharding, which then turns into about 700 directories in the unit directory, the top level one. With 4 prefix, it would have given about 5,000. I'm not sure where we made the mistake in thinking there, but 5,000 is too much. And like this, I think the biggest one was li for lib, where we at some point said, okay, we need to split it up because that contains more than 1,000 packages. But no, it's actually just like, well, it doesn't show here, but GitHub can render all of them. It contains like 700, I think, which is, again, just about doable.
Yeah.
So you think only one layer is needed of 2?
Yeah.
I think that
We-
this calculation might have been due to uppercase, lowercase.
Oh yeah,
Yes. Yep.
We probably assumed a smaller parameter space.
That
Wait,
would
but
explain it.
we have to
yeah.
actually caseful because it's
We
will be
do.
uncheckable on Mac OS.
Yep.
How in the world did we send spaceships to the moon? I don't know.
Well, we didn't have Mac OS back then. Simple.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, so we do need to make it.
You have to. They all have to be lowercase
Oh.
names, and you're gonna have clashes on some package names as a result of that, which is something that needs to be kind of worked around.
I don't think we would have.
There was very few, but they do exist, unfortunately. Very, very few. I remember running it though, and you lose
In
a handful of
Nixpkgs?
packages.
So
Yes,
you
it's
already
people
can't clone
doing-
it.
Well, no. I mean, what happens is like, sorry, if you create the unit directories based on package name, you have some packages with the same name, but the only
Oh.
difference is casing.
I see.
So you have capital F foo and lowercase foo, which are different packages. Those, in this case, need to be dealt with. There's very, very few of them, but they do exist. I would not say that it's like a real issue, but like it's something to keep in mind.
Let's. That
Like
probably
in Nixpkgs.
will. Yeah. Oh, that's
Like-
deadly.
Hey guys, it's in my little test branch that I had all about to show you. It had a big old block like, hey, watch out for this thing.
Let's see. I'm gonna. I want to find this, and I would like to see it.
Yeah, let me go check out my on my
I think
Mac.
most of them start with a capital letter anyway. And judging from this list that's on screen now, we already reached Q in like, what is it? Just over a dozen. So if you scroll down and reach the first lowercase, oh, well, there you go. I think that's
Oh, you mean?
XA.
Oh, yeah.
From AM to XA, that's not many packages.
Yeah, very few, but they exist.
But I mean, wait. What is the problem here exactly? Like,
So okay, if you'll see, you have like the capital SP, or like, okay, let's find an example one where maybe you've got like a clash based on. So like, let's say you have capital AM
but
and lowercase
I see
am.
only clashes in the shard directories, not in the package names themselves.
Well, I mean, it's both, right? Like,
Well,
okay, because in this case, you have them separated by their capital letter, but like the second that you say, oh, they all have to be lowercase, well, now then if you tried to do uppercase in the subdirectories, you're going to have clashes. In either case, like the package names need to be like lowercase unique. Any way you want to slice it, you got to handle it like that. I think if I remember, it was actually like so few packages that I like when I saw it. We need to count because off the top of my head, I'm thinking it's like 20.
we'll
Or
give
like-
them new names and give them the old names and alias.nix.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That should just be a policy. I think it's very stupid to have, equivalent modulo case names in attribute set, even without macOS.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how the hell is anyone supposed to use that? You should be able to turn to your coworker and tell them with your mouth the name of the package,
With
and it's
the
not
mouth
ambiguous.
Wait, and so on Mac OS, if you have a case sensitive file system or a case insensitive file system rather, you can't have a like ch Oh yeah, I mean here we have like this
Right.
actually.
Right.
Yeah.
So those would become one directory.
I see. And what would it just pick one of them then? Randomly?
It would use the like whichever one you create first. That's what the user will see when they look at like their file list. But if you try to add a new directory with a name that would conflict, it will just move. It will it treats them interchangeably. So like whichever one's named first. So if I do like all caps, readme, that's how it'll be saved. But if I try to make a lowercase readme, like say I do like vim readme all lowercase, it's going to open the uppercase version, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if get internally is doing like a make-dir -p, then you'll get one at arbitrary.
Yep.
All right.
Wait, so Git
Is
just completely messes this up.
Well, no. So this is just the whole file system itself. So like anytime that you try to like do a system call to make a directory, if that same directory exists with a different case, it will be a no-op. Like it'll say, "Oh, that directory already exists,"
but
even
wait,
though the name is different.
Oh, and so I guess if a person on Mac would clone, on a case insensitive file system would clone this and run with it, nothing would be a problem because it would just treat those as one. But because you read the contents, it doesn't really matter what the top level one is.
It matters if the package names are exactly the same, where the only difference between them is the case. So if I have lowercase foo and capital foo, those will clobber each other.
We could try it on Mac OS, but
there's
either
very few. Yeah. There's very few, but there are some.
It's either an error. Oh, sorry. Well, even the case where the package names don't conflict, even if it were to clone successfully, if you were to run git status, it would probably say things are changed because it looks like files have been moved around, and that's weird.
Yeah, this is like putting your finger in the hornet's nest, kind of.
Yeah.
I would really recommend just doing all packages have to be lowercase IDs. They have to be unique. Make aliases.
Well, whether or not they have to be lowercase, they should be.
Well, yeah, they should be case insensitive. Yeah.
I've just checked the names for collisions by partitioning them into names that are already lowercase and names that are not completely lowercase. Partitioning those and then intersecting those sets, and that just gives 6 attributes, and they all seem to be aliases.
Oh, cool.
I think there's already been an effort to lowercase some packages.
Can you tell me one of them?
So one is PPSSPP, and that one exists in all caps and in lowercase. And access the all caps one, it's error. It has been renamed to lowercase.
Oh, it's apparently not auto-called. Oh, no.
Wait, do it without the slash? It could be other things in that directory.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, here. So this would be one, and then we also have... Oh, and I guess the alias won't be in here, though, because it's an alias. Okay.
And then there's Q, which is alias that's not an error. It's just...
can you say it again?
Q flipper.
Q flipper.
Yeah, it's like QF flipper.
Yep. I can only find QF. There's only QFSM here. I guess it's really
not supported by the tool one, I guess. Not much of a concern for now.
But like as long. So I mean, the restriction should be that I don't think we can lowercase all the packages gist. I mean, that would be a huge change because we have a lot of upper and lowercase packages right now.
We don't need to do
saying
that.
for the unit directories, yeah.
Just
for the shards here.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
it's the shards and the farms, or just the shards?
It could be just the shards.
Yeah, it could be just the shards. The thing, like the internal in your name field, the actual attribute itself does not need to change. It's just something that like, so any routine that you write that's like
conflict.
Yeah, so like any routine that you write that's maybe like give me the shard directory from a name, be sure that you just run 2 lower or whatever, like so that
we need to change this in the spec as well, because right now it only says substring, but there should be 2 lower after substring.
And then it has to specify what happens if 2 things inside the directory, right? Or no, I see. The substring is only 2 lower. Everything in the directory will be disambiguated by being the original case.
Yeah. Well, and the gotcha there is you do need enough assertion to say that you can make them uppercase if you want, but you can't have an uppercase and lowercase directory. That was why I kind of thought that just for the actual directory names, make them all lowercase is a safe way to like not shoot your foot off.
Yeah.
You could do that, but you could also just have a completely this RFC agnostic, is it macOS safe check? And so I don't mind the separation of concerns as much as I like correct by construction.
What do you mean? Is it macOS safe? Like, would that be an additional
like
check?
For all paths in the Git repo, if you normalize them by case, there are no duplicates.
Correct.
That should be true before and after our RFC. We don't actually touch that at all. We just don't want to create new violations.
Yeah. My suggestion is the sharding could just be always 2 lower, and the disambiguation is preserved because in the directory you preserve case.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then any Git conflict there would just be would be, or any case conflict there should just be checked.
Yeah. It's nice for the whole attribute name should match to preserve case in the like leaf directory, the unit directory, as opposed to the sharding directories.
All right. So, I mean, this check will get a bit harder to express. Especially there's no.
Well, you just do 2 lower on the substring. I think it's
just create a PR for the 2 lower.
And then will that destroy where we started? Like originally we talked about how the numbers of packages or number of units per directory was low. Does that destroy those numbers now for you?
I don't think that would be a huge problem.
Well, we'll have fewer things. We'll have fewer sharding directories, but more things in each sharding directory.
Correct.
So lib, like the li, might become a problem again.
Exactly. That's what I meant. We started with celebrating that the numbers were lower than expected.
There's only 6 packages that start with a capital L.
Okay, well, I guess it's not so bad.
That's not a problem, I think. No.
Maybe we can't get away with 1 3 prefix sharding directory.
3? I think
if y'all wanted to test, I have the sandbox thing that I had literally have you set n and it will create.
Yeah.
You can find out exactly how many.
Yeah. Okay. But other way, it seems like there's a path ahead here, right?
Yeah.
I might PR the tool to make it accept n, even if we don't need that, because it's beautiful.
It is. I've got it.
All right. Then wait, lower. I had this changed to lowercase before, but then I changed it back because I was like, okay, that's annoying to always lowercase everything. Well, yeah. Anyways, we can do that offline.
So
Yeah,
merge-
I'll. What?
Merge the PR then. 31.
Yeah. Where is it? Here.
31.
Oh, oh yeah. Oh yeah. You can see my screen share. I was going to the tree wide next packages change, and we're like, yeah, let's merge it. Oh yeah, 31. Yeah, I think I opened here. But yeah, the recording is about to end anyways. I'm gonna stay here a bit more if someone wants to see me do the change to the code and rerun it. But yeah, otherwise have a nice week and see you next week. Oh yeah, let's make it a goal or let's open the PR next meeting. Let's set this as our goal. I don't think we have more to address, and let's work towards closing all the issues we have here until then. These do look like a bunch, but honestly, most of those aren't a concern anymore. Yeah. So yeah, let's aim for that, I think. All right. Have a nice